Hi, my name's Toby Mountjoy, and I'm very, very excited to be here with you guys today on World Social Worker Day. I'm not actually a social worker. I'm a behavior analyst, and I work for a company called Autism Partnership. We have a few offices around the planet, and I live in Hong Kong. We provide many different kinds of services for children with autism. We have a school in Hong Kong for children that are 5 up to 18. But predominantly we spend a lot of our time working with very young children doing early, intensive, therapy. The therapy that we use in Autism Partnership is called the Autism Partnership Method, which is really a form of applied behavior analysis. I hope you see in the videos, it's a very individualized approach that also emphasizes a very naturalistic way of teaching. We teach our staff to use clinical judgment in the moment when they're teaching children, as opposed to a very protocol-driven, very rigid or methodological kind of approach. Our approach is really quite flexible, and we train our teachers to really work and teach with the students and to reflect upon what the students are doing at any moment in time, and to make good decisions about being great teachers. And I'm going to be talking about a child, and I'm going to share with you a case that is something recently we've been doing here in Autism Partnership. As you know, we've been doing an educational project, the Autism Partnership Method Educational Project. And in this project, we've been bringing families in, and they do a week of services with us. It's in our Jumpstart model, which is where you spend Monday through Friday. You start in the morning at 9, finish at about 3:30 in the afternoon, every day, Monday through Friday. And we provide some of the best intervention we can possibly do for that week. And we see where we can get to by the end of those 5 days. So I'm going to be sharing with you a young man called Young, and he's 4.5 years old. And he came to do this Jumpstart week with us, probably maybe last October, November. And so I wanted to share with you his progress and talk with you through a little bit of the therapy and some of the decisions we've made as we went through the week. So I think you'll find it interesting and gives you a little bit of an eye on sort of what do we do at Autism Partnership during that time, and what is our sort of approach to, prioritizing what kind of programs and what kind of curriculum do we sort of design for the children that study here. Of course, it's all really different depending on the students that come in, which is why it's been interesting to do many of these different kind of Jumpstart weeks and people to sort of see what we do differently with each of those students and how we individualize our approach. So I'm going to share with you, to start with, the very beginning of his first day on Monday. And this is what we call the baseline, or this is just a period of time at the beginning of the process where we're not doing any teaching. We're not doing any therapy. We're not trying to teach anything to the student. We're not doing ABA. We're just wanting to see, what does a student do? When we provide instructions, does he follow those readily or not? What do they do in their free time? Are there things that, they might be upset about? Maybe when they first come in, are they worried? Are they anxious? What kinds of things are presenting? We might try to, provide a bit of work and see what happens. But we're trying to emulate basically what happens in an everyday, situation, whether it be the parents or what would a, kindergarten teacher do, or other family members or caretakers, probably act a bit the same and just see what sort of occurs. The other reason, we do the beginning of the day is also just to make sure that students are comfortable, that when they're coming in, we haven't got like big separation anxiety issues with the parents, or that they're worried or nervous about their first time in our office. Because obviously we'd want to address that very quickly and help them to feel that it's a great place to come and that they're, feeling okay and comfortable with being here. So with this child, he was very happy coming in here. There's lots of toys and activities we've got going on. And so he was more than happy to sort of settle in with us. There was really no issues with him, having mum drop him off and spend the day with us, which was great, because it enabled us to sort of start to look at other things more quickly. So here's a little video. And in this video, we're just trying to get him to do an everyday activity. This is reading a book. And I think June asked him a few questions about the book, and that's a very typical activity you might do as a teacher or as a parent. And we just want to see, will he sort of sit with us? Will he respond to those questions? How does that go? So let's take a look.
邊個係太陽啊？
That's right. Look, it's
係啊，呢個太陽。咁邊個係月亮啊？
So this is a very typical response in our first few hours of meeting this young man. He would not cry or get upset. Again, we're not trying to make him do anything or we're being very gentle in our approach. But he would often just kind of ignore us, and just go and walk to something he liked the look of. Like I say, he's got quite a lot of interest in toys and activities, which is really good. But he'll just kind of blow us off, go walk over there, play something different. It wasn't easy to engage him in a sort of teaching moment or a sort of an activity that was more adult led. He would more prefer to kind of be on his own and go to play some toys in the room or somewhere else in the office. Here's another example. And June is asking him to kind of come over to the table to maybe look at some things on the table with her. And he almost makes it. You'll see, it's very close. He gets up actually from what he's doing, which is awesome. Comes to the table, but then sort of drifts off and goes back to, finding something else more interesting to do.
我過嚟啦。
We also engaged him in some activities that might, again, be more like what you do at school. This is a sort of song. And so June is doing a sort of fun song with him. And we want to see, would he follow the actions? Would he come along with that? Would he participate in that? It is a cute video, actually. I like this one. He almost participates in the sense he, kind of looks at June, but he kind of walks away. As he walks away, he sort of moves his body to the music as if to say, I kind of like this activity. But again, he's not really following what June is doing, and he's not really participating in maybe the way that June would want him to, or maybe how a classroom teacher would expect.
跳舞咯喎，預備。Oh, and in, you put your right. And in, and you shake it all about. Hokey pokey. 一邊啦。
Here's another example. They're doing some cooking and June is wanting him to kind of follow, again, some simple actions we think he's able to do by just following a simple instruction of copying her. And again, he just kind of does his own thing and isn't really listening to what June said.
你又煮啊？
So our first challenge for me is looking at these presenting issues is I really want to work on his ability to sort of follow a lesson, participate more, pay attention to what we're doing. This seems like it's going to be really important if we're going to teach him a lot of things. And this was also reported by the parent as being one of their main worries. And so this is an area we wanted to spend our 5 days to zoom in on. Because we've only got 5 days, there's only so much we can do in 5 days. And this seems to be a real area of priority, working on learning how to learn skills, helping him improve the skills of which he's going to be able to access more information and curriculum that we can teach him as teachers or therapists. So this is what we're going to do. We look at some of the things he's able to do. We figured that he's probably able to do some imitation. We'd seen glimmers of that in the first morning. He's able to understand some receptive labels, meaning understanding the names of things. If I ask him to give me the ball or the bus, he's able to label some things. If we ask him, hey, what's this? He might say what it is. Again, sometimes, not always very reliably. He's also able to do some matching. So we wanted to take some of those programs and really use those to individualize, craft something for him that would work a lot more on his being on task, his paying attention, and his participation. Using those things he sort of already knows a little bit how to do makes our life a little easier because we can highlight much more those areas of the learning how to learn skills. So one of the first things we wanted to teach him about is, in our world, we call it contingency. This really means understanding about what he needs to do the things that he'd like to do. So as I mentioned, we've got lots of toys and activities he loves to play. He's not a really difficult student to identify activities and toys that he's super interested in. So as part of our program, we want to sort of highlight that, hey, those things aren't always just like for free, because if they're always just kind of for free, that maybe you would not choose to maybe come and do some of the things that might be a bit more difficult or something more around learning. Just like for my son, if I told him that he could play on the iPad all day as his choice forever, and then maybe suggest he do some, chores or homework during the weekend, but it was his choice whether he wanted to or not, he would very happily just play the iPad till his eyes bleed all day. At some point I have to say, hey, why don't we put the iPad away for a minute? It's time to get some chores done, and maybe when you get done, we can have our dinner or do something else that you might prefer to do. So for this example, we start with something very, very simple. And this is right at the beginning. And you'll see there's a couple of things that June is going to ask him to do. There's a bell you can see on the table. And we started to sort of formalize a little bit the work. We would ring the bell, and then that would signify that it's time to finish the things that you're playing with and time to come and do just a tiny bit of work. As you'll see in the video, this is a really small amount of work. And when he's finished just those few things that he needs to do, he's done and he can get to leave. Now you'll see in this video, he's not looking super energetic in following June's instructions. You see him laugh a lot. We had this quite often at the very, very beginning of the first day when we started to make some demands or ask him to do some tasks. He would often get into this kind of giggling when he was doing these kinds of tasks. He still does the work, as you'll see, but the quality of his participation is not really that great. But I think at this point, he still doesn't really understand what's going on. I'm not sure he really understands that, doing this work, what that results in, or like, what's the purpose of that? Why do I need to listen to June? He's still kind of learning at this point, which is why I think we get a lot of this kind of more goofy behavior of him kind of laughing and not paying like super great attention. Anyway, have a look. This is the very beginnings of us having him understand some of this.
好，過嚟上堂。哇，好叻仔，即刻過嚟上堂。好，玩砌圖啊！中完啦。
Now we went on to also use kind of like materials as tokens. So, in this next clip, you'll see June working with him with some picture cards, and she's having him, do some labeling activities with those. And as he labels them, the cards get, taken away as similar to be tokens. This is a slightly different kind of contingency, but is also something we were teaching him on the first day.
呢個係啦，好啦，麵包。哦，奇異果係啦。做嘢。
So in this next clip, you'll see us also doing a task around, giving him some instructions about labels, like, find the ball, etc. And he needs to put the things into a basket. And when all the things have gone in the basket, we're finished. You'll see Nicole is also providing a little bit of guidance to know that when he's finished one instruction, that, just to wait until she issues the next one. Otherwise, what he'll do is he'll just put all the things in the box and not listen to what we say so that he can be finished and done. So it's important that he understands, hey, just wait for the teacher to let you know when is the next thing you need to put in, wait and listen. Okay, this is an important skill. But you'll notice in this video already, this is probably about an hour and a half into the, first day of training. He's already a bit sharper. You see his attention is a little bit more directed to the materials. He's listening quite nicely. The giggling is kind of subdued a lot. Like we didn't tackle that at all. We just focused on what we wanted him to do. And he's starting to look a little sharper at this point. So this is a nice clip, even though Nicole is still kind of providing a little bit of guidance with this task.
水樽，等，係啦，杯，係，等一陣，紙巾，係喎，再等多陣，係啦，匙羹，做晒啦，係喎，等到啱啲喎。
Now, I'm going to throw this next video in just because I thought it was quite cute video of this kid, of Young. And as you knew, right, we'd been working on him transiting from, preferred activities to come to do some work with us. And I like this clip. This is towards the end of the week, so I've sort of jumped a little bit, but it's an illustration of us continuing to work on, this kind of transitional skill of like doing some play and then coming to work. And you'll see Justin in this clip. We're in the big area of our office, which is really distracting and full of like a lot of amazing toys. And when Justin, says, hey, it's time to work, I watched the video. I thought, where is he? And then you see this little head poke out from behind this pillar, like really far away. And you see him kind of come all the way back to come and sit with Justin to get started. I was impressed by that because, he could have got distracted so easily on the way there or just decided to stay where he was. The fact that he was able to pick that out and come, all the way over, I think is quite an interesting clip. So anyway, this is towards the end of the week at this point. But I just throw it in because I thought it was quite a cute clip.
過嚟啊，人呀！使你喎，有過嚟喎。
Now I'm going to jump now to day 2, just because I want to include just a little clip of a skill we were working on around his waiting. Okay. And again, one of the problems we had when we work with him is that he would often grab the materials in front of him, or if we're reading a book, he would start turning the page before it was time, or he would be doing something else with some materials rather than listen to what we, wanted him to do or what to follow. We wanted him to learn a little bit about, waiting, a little bit impulse control, being able to stop doing something that he enjoyed doing and orientating towards the teacher. So it was a really short program, but it, basically is teaching him how to wait. And in this video, you'll see Nicole doing that. With him. You'll see in the beginning, she rings the bell again, which is kind of a bit more of a demanding instruction, like, oh, something's happening. She pairs that with her saying, wait. You'll see as we get to the end of the video, she doesn't use the bell anymore. She just asks him to wait. And he's quite good at listening and stopping what he's doing, orientating to the teacher to find out, hey, what's going on? What is there something I need to do right now? Sometimes Nicole gives another instruction related to what he was doing. The delay of how long he has to wait is very quick. As we went through the week, it became longer. But you'll be able to see how we taught him just how to wait around play activities in this next clip.
等一等，係喎，幫我張紙巾啦。唔該晒，抹下先。好啦，繼續玩啦。等一等。哇！即刻停㗎喎，好叻喎！呢個叫做咖啡機。咖啡機，好啦，這裡等一等。哇！好叻喎，即刻停㗎喎。係啊，因為太濕啦，抹一抹先嘛。
Okay, so now we're going to focus on what we sort of spent more of our time on during the week, which is really around his attention, paying attention, staying on task, and, how do we increase that level of participation, get him a little sharper, being able to work really efficiently with the teachers. This is really beginning of the second day, I think, right in the morning. And in this clip, you'll see Nicole is now continuing on from the work we did on day one, using the materials to do some labeling. It's still kind of working around completing the things that are on the table. And she's asking him to label some of these objects. And you'll see a slight diversion at this point. His participation is quite good and he's quite eager and sharp in this clip, which is great. I think he really understands what's going on now and what it is he needs to do. And you'll see that Nicole right at the end picks up a pair of shoes and asks him what the shoes are. I think this is quite an important diversion because up till now, all the work has been done very much in front of him, very easy for him to attend to. So she deliberately picks up these shoes from over here. It's a little bit more unpredictable because I think he thinks we're going to just use the things that are on the table, but it helps him to understand, anything could happen here, and starts the process of him having to pay a little bit more attention than we have been doing on the first day. So have a look.
咩嚟㗎？
哇！
哦，
加晒，
水，
香蕉，是海，
係 perfect，叻仔。
Here's another example of a task we were doing on the second day. I think this is more towards the afternoon. And June's doing a matching task. But this one is a little bit different in the sense it's really what we call find the same. And what she does is she holds up an object for him to see, and then he has to find the same one where he is. So that's not a difficult task because like finding the same thing, I don't think is a difficult challenge for him. But this task can be made quite difficult because we're going to show it. Maybe we only show it for a short period of time, and then he's got to remember it. And then he's also got to look and find those things where he is on the table. That can be a very simple task, as I'm going to illustrate in the next video, but it can also be very difficult. I can just show the object very quick. The array of things he can choose from might be like 20 different objects, and I've got to really scan, or the objects might be all around me. So it can actually be a really complicated, challenging task that works on memory, paying attention. You don't know when the object's going to be shown, so got to be really orientated. Can be a good task, but this is one of the things we did with him, and you can see how June did that with him.
好啦，預備我哋睇下做啲咩咯
mask，touch it，香蕉。
June also did a little bit of what we call like a fluency task. And it's good to teach students sometimes to do things more on their own, rather than always have to give an instruction and then give a response and then the teacher, something that can be a bit more student directed. So this is a very beginning, again, I think on day 2, and June is just helping him to, do some labeling, but do it on his own. So there's 3 cards. She provides a bit of help with the first one. But what we'd love him to do is, as he picks up the cards, to label them and put them away and do that by himself without the need of a helper to keep asking him questions and give instructions. Again, this task can be expanded greatly to like having many more things, or if you're doing matching, it might be to sort things, go and find things, maybe you have a little basket and put the things where they're supposed to go. So it's an example of doing more of a sort of chained behavior, where you're doing more than one thing for one instruction, and helps to develop skills of staying on task without, being instructed, to complete things without supervision, which are quite important for kids at 4.5 when they're going to school or doing things at home.
好啦，你自己開始讀咯喎。西蘭花係啦，提子，西瓜，喂，做完咁叻嘅。
All right, we're moving along a little bit now, and this is probably day 3. And now Nicole has started to think about how we can get him to be a bit more mobile in the office. We don't always want to be sat in a chair, and we know for a fact that when we start to do activities with him that are when we move around the office a little bit more, sometimes he gets more easily distracted. He might find things to do or wander away. Obviously, if you're sat down, it's, more effort to get up and go and do that. whereas when you're stood up, it's quite easy. So we wanted him to be good at, participating in activities where we're stood up and maybe walking around and doing things in the office. So this is a similar task, which is doing some labeling using that skill he has already. And now Nicole has put things on the wall. He's having to stand up. Nicole's a little further away from him, and she's having him complete all of the tasks in one go. So again, he's got to really stay on task and pay attention to what Nicole is pointing to and what she's doing. And so this is a little bit more difficult than the things we've been doing, not from a labeling standpoint, but from being able to stand still, being able to watch, pay attention, not be distracted or go off and find other things to do. That's what we're working on this week. So here's a clip of Nicole doing that.
係喎，幾定定喎，好睇下啲咩咯喎？呢個係
Ice cream.
ice cream，
香蕉。
香蕉、
西瓜。
西瓜、
粟米。
粟米，最後係
Bash.
fish 魚，嚟
Yeah.
To work more on that, we'll do some stuff where we're going to be walking around the office and maybe giving some simple instructions. In this video, you'll see he's having a sort of tag June, which is a good social awareness task, like tracking the person. Have they stopped? Oh, they've stopped. I should stop too. Are they going to go over there? I should follow. Tracking and paying attention to the other person. It's a really good skill that we often teach too, just from a standpoint of community safety. When we're out in the community, teaching children to kind of stay with us and not run into the road or go across the crossing, be aware of where we are and stay with us. But in this example, it's really, again, just having him increase his ability to participate with us, even though there's a lot of, distractions going on. So June's instructions are quite simple. You'll see, but he does a good job of sticking with her, being aware of her and following her and being able to undertake her instruction.
係喎，好啦，等等，係啦，過嚟，呢個咩嚟㗎？
書包。
係喎，有你個書包喺度嘅，幫我攞書包過嚟。係啦，過嚟俾我。好啦，唔該晒。好啦，我哋行呢邊啦，繼續。
你坐喺度，
過嚟呢邊啦，好嘅。
坐低。
你睇下，咩嚟㗎？
拉水。
水係喎，好啦，個水咧唔好擺喺度啦，擺翻去書包入邊先。
快啲！
唔係飲，擺入去。係啦，擺入去，係，幫我擺入去啊。
So to go back to that task where we were teaching him to do the imitation of actions, again, this is a really good task to work with him being around the room and not sat in a chair. So we worked on that. You'll see in this first clip, Nicole has got him sort of stood on a little mat. That was just to give him a sense of we want you to stand here and not just walk all the way around. And she's doing some simple actions with him for a very short duration that he's able to do. You'll see in the next clip, we take away the mat. He's not doing that. He's in the sort of classroom that we use and does very well, copying all the actions and engaging in that activity. And I think there's a little smile on his face at the end. I don't know whether that's because he thought he was done or whether he sort of starting to like that activity a little bit, which was nice to see.
我哋一齊唱歌咯喎！1、2、3 Everybody in, everybody out, everybody stomp, everybody shout. Yeah! 好勁喎！ If you're happy and you know it, point to your nose. If you're happy and you know it, touch your feet. If you're happy and you know it, then you really have to show it. If you're happy and you know it, wave bye-bye. Bye!
We're probably on about day 4 now. And we also wanted to simulate a little bit of some classroom environments, so we have a classroom here. Now for him, there aren't many other kids in that classroom just yet. And we're just starting some of the kind of lessons or things that may look like a bit of a lesson. So you'll see in this one, he sat at a table, which might be quite common for his age in Hong Kong anyway. There's a sort of big board, which would be typical in maybe like a circle time activity, something similar. June sat quite far away from him. And she's teaching him some new labels. You'll see at this point, we're not really clearing the field, so it's unclear to him how much work he needs to do, which is good because in prior lessons you'll have noticed he always knows exactly how many things he needs to do. That's probably much more motivating when you're not quite sure how long the lesson's going to be. Sometimes that might be discouraging or lead to students maybe not being quite as attentive, depending on how you do it. But you'll see June introduces the labels, goes back. He's loud, he pays really good attention to what June is pointing to. And I think is a good lesson to demonstrate some really solid progress in the areas of his attention and participation.
係喎，我哋黐晒啲卡咯喎，跟我讀一次，呢個咩嚟㗎？蛋，係啦，提子，嚟一次，提子係啦，呢個西瓜，嚟一次，咩嚟㗎？西瓜，最後呢個咩嚟㗎？我有嘗試啦，我哋一齊讀水，係喎，嚟一次。水呢個咧，蛋，提子，西瓜，讀得好好。
Here's another lesson that we did in the big area, and this is working on his scanning. And again, being in a more natural environment, like in the beginning on the first day, he loved to touch all the fruits and the food. He likes to play with that. So it's really difficult to instruct him in that kind of situation. But you'll see now, wow, very good. I think this might have even been the last day. Nicole is asking him to retrieve a lot of different items, and he really looks very carefully for each one. You know, if it wasn't in front of him, he orientates over there and he finds something underneath. There's a lot of things in that small area. So he's got to really look carefully and patiently to be able to carry out Nicole's instruction.
靚仔喎，好啦，做呢個咯喎。
Also, day 5 is another matching task. This is sort of where we got to with matching. And here June has got a board of things and then some pictures that need to be matched. And she's going to point at which one it is. And he's going to go find it and come and match it. You'll see the activity goes for quite some time. And again, he's paying really good attention to June and working really, really well with her in this clip.
係喎，跟我講鬼，係喎，隻鬼呢度，跟住呢個，係啊，睇清楚我指乜嘢啊？呢個狗，係啊，狗仔啦，好啦，我哋繼續咯喎。咁好好嘅嗰個睇先，哇，好專心喎！呢個係屋，係啦。跟住我，西瓜，呢個係腳，係啦。
So I was quite pleased with the progress we were able to make in the 5 days. I think that Young was certainly much more easy to teach by the 5th day. it really opened our eyes to like there's probably quite a lot of different curriculum that we could really start to teach him in terms of increasing his vocabulary, starting to look at some play skills, looking at maybe how he might operate in a small group, what skills he might need to be able to do that. There are lots and lots of things that we potentially could kind of come up with at this point, but again, it was really good to just take the time to really focus on some of those core skills for this week. And I think this is really a hallmark of how we operate and look at therapy. I think these skills are really, really critical for students to really make good progress in the long run. I know it's not working on maybe things that we always would love to see immediately, but I think the time put in to work on these skills can really pay off over time. And not all children learn as maybe quickly as young. Sometimes we have to spend considerably more time in developing these kinds of skills. So thank you very much for watching my talk. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be around for the panel if you have questions for me. But you can also find out more about our organization at this address if you're interested to learn more about what we do. Thank you so much.